Welcome back to Raymond Lee Jewelers web series. I'm Liz, and today I'll be telling you why you should buy a vintage or antique engagement ring. Yesterday, I posted about Downton Abbey's effect on the fashion world, and it's no surprise that this show is bringing back vintage and antique fashions. But this trend is also extending into the jewelry world. The terms vintage and antique, while often used interchangeably, actually do have temporal value. Vintage pieces are over 20 years old. An antique's definition varies from source to source, but most authorities agree that an antique is something that's over 100 years old. Everything and anything in between often has its own distinct style that goes with that jewelry era, and each era has its own unique beauty. There are several reasons why vintage and antique jewelry, especially engagement rings, are a fantastic idea. The first is the look. Vintage and antique rings are timeless, and just from looking at them, you can tell there's something special. Antique rings in particular have this really quality craftsmanship look about them. You can tell that they were created with skill, passion, and dedication. These rings are not mass-produced. These rings also have a unique look about them that separates them from modern engagement rings. The carved quality of antique rings, or the geometric detailing on deco rings, adds this really great layer of texture and interest that you just don't find on modern engagement rings. Even the cuts of the stones themselves are often totally different. Old mine cuts and rose cuts give this really romantic and different look to antique rings. Additionally, a lot of antique and vintage rings use gemstones beyond diamonds. Gemstone engagement rings are a huge favorite here at Raymond Lee Jewelers, especially when they're the center stone in an antique ring. Even when there's gemstones added to a vintage ring, in addition to diamonds, it creates a really different look that's totally unique. The gemstones create an incredible impact, and it's a look that our brides know they won't see on anyone else. Another great reason to go vintage or antique is these rings' relatively low environmental impact. The diamonds are already mined, so your diamond isn't funding war or violence in an African or South American diamond mining country. The violence associated with modern diamonds is an unfortunate truth, and while the Kimberley process is working towards putting an end to it, there's no way to tell if a modern diamond is a conflict diamond unless your jeweler can explicitly state where it came from. As far as the metal in antique and vintage rings goes, it's already been mined and refined, so you're not supporting destructive mining practices and you're helping save the planet. Buying antique jewelry is one of the best forms of recycling. These pieces were designed to last several lifetimes. So, when you're buying antique jewelry, you're doing something good for you, for the planet, and for your wallet. Antique and vintage jewelry is often less expensive than its modern counterparts. This is again because the piece already exists. You don't need to pay for the mining, refining, cutting or polishing of the stone, or the mounting the way you would with a big box diamond. And finding a great deal on an antique engagement ring is so easy with the internet at your disposal. You should still research basic diamond education before you start looking and have a general idea of what styles your intended would like. A Georgian era ring is very different from an Art Deco era ring, but don't worry about memorizing all the styles in jewelry history. A reputable jeweler will be able to help you. Just have a general idea of what kind of ring she would like. Once you know how to get a great deal on a diamond, maybe by watching our web series, you can find a reputable jeweler to help you find the perfect ring. Look online to read reviews, but also what the jeweler specializes in. Often, some jewelers will carry huge collections from very popular modern designers. Other jewelers specialize strictly in estate, vintage, and antique jewelry, so it might help you narrow down your options. After you've found the right jeweler, they can help you find the perfect ring. And many antique and vintage rings are actually flexible enough that you could set a different diamond in the mounting. This is great in case you already have a loose stone, or if you just want to customize an antique ring even further. A vintage or antique engagement ring, either bought as is or tweaked to your exact specifications, is a timeless piece of history. It lets you begin your love story with a ring that symbolizes years, maybe even generations, of marital bliss. Vintage and antique engagement rings speak to the bride who values heirloom quality and unique beauty, making them both true classics.